Oh, no, you're fine. Well, yeah, screw it. Switch over to talk time. And turn that off for me. No, it's not that it's that too deep. It's, what, you think there's something larger or greater than this? If there is, I haven't found it. I think the biggest purpose in life is to experience each day. Is to be part of the world, part of doing something. That's it. And if your only purpose is to experience this life in this way, that's it. No. You didn't get too deep. I take a minute to think about it. No, you don't. You don't have to enjoy your life. If you're constantly chasing just happiness, you're not going to find the real moments. What you should be chasing is moments in life. Good, bad, otherwise, but those moments that you remember for the rest of your life. Because if you always chase happiness, you will never really understand life itself. Well, that's true. You know, you'll never really truly appreciate happiness. You'll keep setting your bar too high. So that, you know, what yesterday made you happy, today will be just the same. Happiness is one of the answers. I'm not saying don't appreciate it when it happens. I'm saying don't constantly chase it. But finding the happiness in everything, you'll never really have a perspective on just being. You know, just being you should be good enough. Sufficiency. You should be sufficient in and of yourself. That's it. Like, that's what should be the important part. I don't know how else to put that. Is just being. I lived many years trying to chase happiness. And I just kept, you know, raising the bar too high or thinking rather than just figuring out who I am and just being able to be me. Being happy with who I am. Okay, well, if that's who you are, that's what you know, if that's what you need to do, that's fine. You know, I mean, it really, I'm just saying, basically for me, it's more about registering, recording what's going on, being in the moment. You know, as trite, you know, as common as you've heard that, it's very important to be in the moment. It's important to be there. You know, that's why I draw. That's why I write. I use the good and the bad of my life to make a complete scene. Because, I mean, try to make a piece of art with nothing but light. With no shadow, just light. And what happens? You're blinded. No matter how good or awesome it is, there's no contrast. There's nothing to shape. There's nothing to border. Of course we are. But I think some of us, and I'm not talking about you specifically, I've known a few artists in my time. I think some of us look for the trauma so that we can call ourselves artists. Same with musicians. Why do you think so many musicians, talk about selling their soul to the devil? Well, that's just, I mean, let's be honest here. They sold their soul to the industry, not the devil. But they have to make it sound more than it really is. But that's also why they end up chasing drugs and alcohol, because they've set their bar so high that just being a rock star isn't enough anymore. They have to be more. We always have to keep pushing that bar higher. Well, true. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, I'm just saying appreciate what you have. That's really what it is. It's not finding happiness. It's finding appreciation in what you have. Finding appreciation in who you are. And finding those things that make you feel guilty or feel like you shouldn't appreciate what you are, who you are. Find those things and cut them out of your life. Well, that's always a good sign when your lungs haven't collapsed. But see, I also found that I stopped listening to major music or even, quote unquote indies because the industry uses them sourly. They use them and they abuse them and they spit them out. What's up, Nine Tails? How are you? We just talking about life, the universe, and everything. And the answer is 42. Too bad we don't know what the question is. Right, each day you get up, just getting up in the morning is actually a feat. We always think about the miracles that didn't happen, but we forget about the miracles that did happen. But those miracles that didn't happen are the ones that actually saved our life. We didn't get struck by lightning. We didn't get hit in a car. Ooh, nice. Found some hand baskets at Dollar Tree. Hey, see? Little victories. Well, but that's because most indie creators aren't indie creators. They're part of an industry called indie creation. And I don't care if it's indie movies. I don't care if it's... No. You sit in the handbasket so you can go to hell. You got your handbasket, so now you can go to hell. Because then you go to hell in a handbasket.
Make sure to take over when you're there.
Right. Kick the dude out in the throne and say, thanks for keeping my seat warm. But we look at life as a game to win, something to beat, or something that is an opponent and is trying to beat us. That's not what life is at all. We can't anthropomorphize life. Well, see, again, you can't be too depressed, man. You can't. You can't sit there and just yes. If you knew how many times in my life I have stumbled, fallen down, and got back up and kept going. You can't quantify it. How many times if I had let life beat me, circumstances throw me under the bus, I wouldn't be here. I mean, I'd just be honest. If I just gave up, if I just such is my life, okay. I wouldn't be here. Why not mix both? Put the pocket glitter into the holy water in the spray bottle. So then you've actually not just put holy water, but now you've marked your opponent because for months later, they'll still have the glitter on them. And you brightened their day. Well, if I constantly worry about what might happen, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'll just be honest. If I constantly worried about what could or couldn't happen, why not? It's good enough for me. Yeah. Buy a better spray bottle? Get ones from dollar store? I don't know. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Hey, what's up, Jade? I wasn't expecting to see you here tonight. There you go. Makeup quality superfine glitter. You know, the stuff that really irritates if it gets in the wrong places. And make sure to spray somebody in the ear. That way, if they try to use a Q-tip to get it out, they're just grinding it in deeper. We're talking about glitter and spray bottles with holy water, just to make sure we know who's who. For Jade. Well, yeah, you made it. I'm glad you made it. How's the vacation going? Or you guys, because you guys had a whole week, right? Glitter is so much fun. Yes, it is. Well, then get one of the, like the obvious, like the old school super soakers. Which they stopped selling because idiots were putting battery acid and stuff in them. I will tell you that lemon juice and vinegar is actually funny to put in a super soaker. Cool. I'm glad. You guys need a vacation. You guys need a trip. And from the pictures you sent, you guys look like you're having a lot of fun too. Well, isn't that part of what you saved up for? You had a budget? Something small enough for your handbag that won't leak. They did used to have the baby super soakers with the little tiny pump. It's hilarious. Oh, nice. Yeah, I kind of figured when you said lightsaber. You sure, you know, since you got a black medium cloak, you're not going for something of a more Sith-y kind? Harry Potter stuff next. Nice. Not my thing, but I know you guys enjoy it. It's entirely possible. You never know. But also, there's just some people you can't fix. And then we just start figuring out how to move on. But now that we've got a decent amount of actually XL. Oh, sorry. You said a black medium cloak. I wasn't assuming that the size. I was assuming like psychic medium. I didn't even think about size. Well, I don't want pics of Will. I mean, why is Will sending me pics? I don't even know a Will. Well, why take up the energy to be petty? If they're not really worth trying to help, why try to hurt? That generally makes me feel bad. Maybe it doesn't you. Maybe it's part of retribution, revenge. I don't know. There are people that I would practice that against. I will say that. Well, okay. Yes, Ninetales, there is a whole political side to the Harry Potter stuff. I get it. But let people have their fun and separate the art from the artist. Well, no, you can still spray with holy water. That's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. You were saying being petty. Like, I don't see spraying somebody down with holy water and glitter as being petty. I think that's just kind of funny. I mean, especially when you figure it's Pride Month. Holy water and glitter? You're covering all your bases. Oh, I don't consider that petty. I just consider that being, chaotic. But, Rando, nobody's pure. Like I hate to put it that way. I'm chaotic good. I have pretty much ascertained that. Like, if you start trying to... Like, you have to cut out so much, and I don't think you're willing to do that. Like, you went to Dollar Tree. Are you going to hold them accountable for all the crimes they've done? How much slave labor goes into their wares, their materials that they get? Let alone the amount of families and homes they've dispossessed because they built where they did? Well, just like you don't have the individual power to change Harry Potter. You could enjoy the story without enjoying her politics. I mean, like I said, I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan. Like, in fact, a friend of mine kind of ruined it for me. So, I was never a big Harry Potter person. Like, I don't think it's bad for people. I just, I don't really care. But I also know that people have, they have a right to have fun. They have a right to be happy. Less problematic on one side, more problematic on another side. It doesn't really matter. Correct. Don't spend any new money on the product. That's fine. But I also think that what dealt more damage in the long run was actually feeding her. And I don't mean money. Trying to combat her. You actually brought, it's a Streisand effect. You brought more light onto her so that she ended up getting more money in the long run. Right? Well, I mean, if I felt that way, I couldn't read any Stephen King. And I like Stephen King. But Stephen King is such so problematic. He took away one of my favorite stories. And people don't understand, like, obviously, if they let him take away that story, they didn't understand the point behind the story. It was called Rage, and it was about a kid sitting in a classroom taking it, yes, a lot of problematic words I can't say. But the idea was, the concept behind that story was the simple fact that the student took the school hostage as much as the school took him hostage. And the very fact that the education and how they were being educated ruined their brains as much as the device he used ruined his brain at the end. Too many people took it one way without understanding that it was a completely different story. It was about education and the failures of the education system. I don't even think Stephen King really understood why he needed to write that. But then because of politics, he stopped the printing of the book. Now, I do believe that the scene in It that was found very problematic makes perfect sense, that it would need to be edited because it made no sense. there were other ways to illustrate that. But before we get too in the weeds, I actually did come here with an idea of what I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to change the subject, not because I'm having trouble with what's being said, but I don't want to cause more trouble than it's really worth. Because one, I don't need to know anybody's politics just as much as you don't need to know mine. Any more than what comes out. You know, we can have a discussion about it, but if you really felt a certain way about certain things, you would stop using all forms of social media just because of the damage they do. I mean, if you start drawing lines in the sand like that, you're basically just might as well go live in the forest off the grid and not talk to anything or buy anything. A good illustration of this is actually watch the Netflix show, The Bad Place. It actually illustrates it very well. But, moving on. Moving on to the topic at hand. Well, I have a little narration that I'm going to speak, and then we'll move on to the actual conversation about what I'm talking about. They call it an office. That's generous. I push the door open and step into nothing. No desk, no chair, no walls worth mentioning. Just a volume of stale air hanging in the neon haze outside the windowless frame. The city hums beyond it. Power lines, traffic grids, 1,000 conversations bleeding through the fog like cigarette smoke through a cracked window. The door seals behind me. Lights, I say. The air listens. A soft glow blooms overhead. Not bulbs, not a fixture. Just pure illumination. Perfectly even, like the room decided to remember itself. The fog stirs, subtle as breath on cold glass. I work my fingers under the collar and exhale. Desk. Again, the air listens. 12 million tiny hands search for each other. The air thickens and crystallizes. As the surface grows out of nothing, clean lines, matte black, scarred just enough to look honest, my desk knows better than to pretend it's new. Chair. It slides into place. It slides into place behind it, already angled just right. It knows how I want to sit, knows how long I stay. I don't thank it. Never thank the fog. Makes it feel like a person. I walk around the desk, footsteps muted as the floor firmed up under my weight, and drop into the chair. It catches me gently, too gently for a man who's been dropped harder by better things. The city keeps buzzing. Somewhere, someone is getting rich. Somewhere else, someone's getting buried. I rub my eyes. Computer. And still, the air listens. Always. The desk ripples. A screen rises from its surface. Seamless. Pale blue light cutting through the gloom. No keyboard, no mouse. Just a quiet waiting. Like it wants to be needed. Angel. The voice neutral, polite enough to be insulting. Nickel. Private investigations. Outstanding invoices. 17. Story of my life. Screen fills with faces, missing persons, corporate ghosts, people who slipped through the cracks wide enough to swallow a city and never made a sound on the way down. I tap on one file, then another. Dead ends stacked on dead ends, like the city's favorite joke. The fog hums softly beneath me, adjusting pressure, redistribution, weight. It's good at that, better than most partners I've had. Pull the footage again. Dock cameras, 48th and Lark, 3 weeks ago. The screen flickers, plays, pauses, plays again. Same blur, same missing 5 seconds. Same gap where answers should be. I lean back, chair leans with me. Supportive, patient. Too patient. Enhance, I say, knowing how stupid it sounds. But the computer does it anyway, always does. Nothing to do. Another dead end. I stare at the screen until it stares back. Reflections layered over reflections. Me, the data, the glow of the city that never shuts its eyes. Clear. The screen dissolves back into the desk. Gone like it was never there. I sit there a while. Long enough for the fog to notice, long enough for it to ask. Without words, just a gentle nudge. Asking what I needed next. I don't answer right away. My shoulders ache. My head's full of rain that never falls. Somewhere between the alleys and the data trails, I lost the thread. And I'm starting to think it never wanted to be found. Change it. The desk softens. Edges rounding, seeking, flowing. The chair loosens its grip, stretching out, unfolding. The room exhales as furniture forgets what it's supposed to be for a second. And then a bed forms where the desk once stood. Low, simple, waiting. I stand, jacket still on, shoes still scuffed with yesterday's mistakes. I lie down anyway. The fog rises to meet me, cradling instead of supporting, firm enough to hold me, soft enough to let me pretend. Then my clothes dissolve into sheets and a blanket. The lights dim without being asked. Another dead end. The ceiling doesn't answer, the fog doesn't either, but it holds, and for now, that's enough. So that was a scene on what it'd be like if we lived with something called utility fog. Now, basically, utility fog is something that sounds too good to be real, sounds too good to be true. And well, it usually is. So, basically what I'm talking about is how the air formed into, yes, you know, how the fog just resolved itself into different objects. But utility fog isn't magic. It isn't science fiction either. Not in the usual sense. It's literally, we're on the edge of known physics and unknown engineering. Like, we know it's possible to make utility fog and using foglets, which are just the little things that make up the fog. But it's a theoretical material made from trillions of microscopic robots. These are the foglets. And each foglet is about the size of a human cell, roughly a few microns across. Individually, they're almost useless. Weak, fragile, easy to ignore. But each foglet does something special. It has 12 telescoping arms, extending outward in all directions, up, down, left, right, forward, and back, and every diagonal in between. These arms can lock onto the neighbors of, these arms can lock onto the neighbors, which form a rigid connection. When enough of the foglets link together, they don't form a pile, they form a structure, much like atoms. Only these are like cell size. Specifically, they form what the engineers call octet trusses. The idea is that it's one of the strongest, most efficient structural geometries we've discovered so far. Yes, what? No, people think that's what HAARP was testing, and people talk about how we may actually have it. So the problem is that it would require us to have made very big leaps in engineering. Because you're talking about engineering at a molecular level. At, just above the atomic scale. But not only being able to do it, we can do it a couple of times. but we can't mass produce it. And to actually have utility fog that's functioning like it's supposed to, you'd need trillions and trillions and trillions of them. So the idea is that sure, it could happen, but you'd have to fool everybody into thinking that we haven't figured out the engineering of doing it. So what utility fog proposes is that instead of building structures out of beams, you build it out of robots. Assembling robots. They're capable of bearing weight, resisting force, supporting people, just like steel, concrete, making buildings out of them. And when they aren't needed anymore, they dissolve into a loose gas-like cloud. Same material, same space, but now you can walk right through it. Which is the core idea behind utility fog. A material that can be, switched from solid, fluid, gas. But, the most unsettling thing is if this was actually real, it's designed to be mostly transparent, mostly intangible, and only about 10% dense. So if a room were filled with fog, you could breathe normally, walk through it, live in it, and until it decides not to let you. Like it can choke you, it can solidify around you into a concrete mass. Because foglets don't lock randomly. They have to be computer controlled. And each one is a tiny machine capable of simple computation and communication with neighbors. It's when you take all of that distributed computing power and put it together, it gets more and more powerful. Not logarithmically, not multiplicatively. There's a word for it, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. Exponentially more powerful as it gets more and more of them together. So if we really had it, you wouldn't need to worry about controlling the masses or even anybody caring about what you do. If you were a government or if you were a corporation that had control of this, because nobody could stop you. A foreign government bring a tank in, you could rip the tank apart. Or you could just turn it off where they couldn't get to where you turned it off to. That's the idea behind, foglets. Like they have this huge capability. So to give an idea of how beautiful these would be, like there's good and bad to these things, okay? So how they would work in everyday life, I've gone over the basic engineering. So you'd have furniture without furniture. You could live in a single room that would perform every function you would need. And it could feel just as big as you would need. You could have a 20-foot by 20-foot room, which for most people, that's bigger than their bedroom. But it could be a grand ballroom. The only thing you couldn't do is put more people in it. You still have the limitations of a 20-foot by 20-foot room. But you could walk around in it like it was the holodeck in Star Trek. Because the foglets would completely baffle you and you'd walk around and you wouldn't even know you were walking or weren't walking. The rooms would rearrange themselves. Walls, bathroom, whatever you needed at the moment. And with the power of the foglets, even your waste could be completely destroyed, so you wouldn't even really need plumbing. It literally could go back into fixing the foglets, making more of them. As gross as that might sound, especially since, you'd be breathing them. But, your clothing could be made of them. So you wouldn't ever have to wash your clothing. You could change your look on a whim. You could even have wigs, hair, changing the color. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, jackets don't create heat. They resist heat loss. But a foglet could actually create heat. You could also have them turn into cars, vehicles, or whatever. You know, it just forms itself around you and becomes a vehicle. And because there's so many foglets, you could even do it in the air. You could fly. You know? But also, the beautiful thing is in utility fog world, danger would have to work harder. Children falling off balconies, they don't fall. They would drift, plummet, you know, safely to the ground, or even pick back up and put back into their home. Workers don't fall off of buildings. Not that they would really need to be building in the first place. They're caught. Sharp edges don't cut unless they're supposed to. Firearms don't fire, you know, because the very air itself can resist them. You know, basic safety is now a baseline condition. Utility fog can act as a physical air filter. It can capture dust, particles, pollen, isolate bacteria, and it's not like bacteria could evolve against them, because it's literally physically resisting them. Because these are cell-sized organisms, robotics. So the bacteria can't evolve against it in the normal way as if in an antibacterial or antiviral, because this is literally a physical mechanism. I mean, just a little charge of energy, very tailored, very targeted to each individual bacterium, just enough to blap, and bacteria gone. There's no evolution against that. You know, you wouldn't need to have closets, you know, most of your consumer goods would be gone because you wouldn't need them. The very fog itself becomes that. You know, you'd need food. That's about it. And yet, for all of this promise, there is an uncomfortable truth lurking underneath. Because a world where matter is programmable is also a world where matter can be controlled. And that's the darker side of utility fog. Because any technology that can hold you up can also hold you down. Every powerful technology carries a shadow. The very qualities that make it appealing, adaptability, invisibility, omnipresence, same thing that makes it dangerous. Same reason why you'd probably never know if it really did exist. You'd never know that you were in a box. You'd be constantly interacting with the rest of the world, but you wouldn't be. You wouldn't even know any different. You could be restrained for no other reason than on a whim. You could be surveillanced without knowing. I mean, because the foglets are microphones, they're cameras. You would never know they were there because they're always there. They can weaponize the environment against you. You can superheat the air. You can, choke somebody out. But also, even without malicious intent, utility fog would induce a whole nother category of risk. System failure. When it replaces everything and it fails, you are left with nothing. You would be completely dependent on it. And we would be completely dependent on it, which would also lead to human dependence and human atrophy. We wouldn't really know what to do or how to do it, because it's been doing it for us. And then how do you make people pay for it? Who owns the very air? But here's the thing. The reality is that utility fog doesn't break the laws of physics. So it doesn't fail on that. Yeah, exactly. Very Wall-E. It fails because we don't know how to build it. Well, yet. Not with the precision demanded. Not with the safety margins. And, well, reality, even if we could, I don't think anybody would actually open that bottle. Because it'd be like having a genie. And like anybody that's ever played D&D, you have to word your wish very carefully, because every wish comes with a barb. There's always a hook. But even if you could build them, you hit the next wall. Power. Well, each foglet needs energy to compute, communicate, move its arms, apply the force. The individual power requirement is tiny. Right? But collectively, it's a terrifying amount of energy. A dense volume of utility fog under full load could dissipate hundreds of kilowatts per cubic centimeter. That's not warm, that's explosive. And even in the original NASA papers, which, by the way, this patent comes from NASA. They've looked into it. Even the original proposals acknowledge this and suggest theoretical solutions. Reversible motors that act as generators when pushed, hydrogen as a local energy buffer, extreme efficiency to recycle almost all energy. The required efficiency is on the order of parts per million, which is far beyond modern anything that we have right now. I mean, just the heat. Every computation generates heat. Every movement generates heat. In a system with trillions of active units, heat isn't a side effect, it's a constant threat. You can't hide it, you can't cheat it, you can't ignore it. There's no way to just push it away. Cooling utility fog would require massive heat distribution, perfect energy recovery, continuous environmental balancing. If heat isn't managed perfectly, the fog becomes uncomfortable, then dangerous, and finally deadly. No amount of clever software can change the laws of thermodynamics that we know of yet. And then you just have the distributed control problem. How do you control one person doing their clothes and blah, 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 and then the next person next to them? I mean, how do these things not interact? How do you keep them individual? You know, how do you keep the owner? You know, I mean, the key takeaway is there's a huge gap. It's scientifically plausible. It doesn't violate conservation of energy, thermodynamics, or any known material limits. But it is so technologically distant. You're requiring breakthroughs in molecular manufacturing, ultra-efficient energy recovery, massive scale distributed intelligence, which we don't even have one of those. We don't even have a prototype. The closest we've got, I think the last time I saw, was basically a softball-sized robot that acts the same way. But it's just a dumb machine. And that's, I mean, how close are we really to that? We're not. Honestly, we're not close at all. We have some micro electromechanical systems, which are tiny machines etched into silicon that can sense, move, and respond to the world. We've got a little bit of stuff. So, I mean, I hear a lot of conspiracy theorists, you know, talk about utility fog or foglets or something to that effect. Or just a few months ago, people were worried about, a heavily thick fog that was in the air. Well, it's not a machine, I can tell you that. I mean, unless we have been completely lied to. Damn it, Infinite, you came in late. Foglets. Basically very small molecular or cell-sized machines that would make everything from the clothes you wear to the room you're in to the vehicle you're using. You know, the idea is that I even wasted some time. I just thought, I don't know. I just thought you were going to be like super late or something. You know, the idea is that it'd be great in a Joseph Matheny? I probably am. It sounds vaguely familiar. tech in the 80s. Are you talking about the guy that came up with the algorithm for, or not algorithm, but like the equation for how complex computers would need to be before it could form a human brain, like neurons, like he made Emery? Okay. Sounds vaguely familiar. Oh, okay. You're talking about the early artificial intelligence that fooled everybody. But yeah, I mean, I'm vaguely familiar with that. I actually have played around with the early ones. What was it? Red Uncle is what they called one of them, or something like that. Red Brother, Crimson Brother. It was something like that. Was the one that everybody was terrified of. See, that's the problem. Okay. But that's the problem with why I don't watch a whole lot of Y-Files, is because I already know quite a bit about what they're already doing the videos on. I've been doing this stuff for a long time. The reason why I was talking about Foglets is because I only recently started hearing about these things. And it's basically what people think nanomachines would do. Nanotechnology. But the problem, again, with nanotechnology is, size, heat, energy, and just being able to manufacture something at such a small scale accurately every time. Because one small mistake propagates a mistake throughout the whole thing. I mean, you forget, Andy, Y-Files is fascinating. They have a lot of good stuff. But I've already done most of my own research on most of what they talk about. But, okay, let me break it down for you real quick. What most people should be absolutely not terrified about AI. What we call AI today is dumb. Probably. I would probably enjoy it. But yeah, it's the joy and curse of having already done my own research. Because I prefer to learn something of my own, in my own way, before I start looking at other people's way of doing things. Before what other people tell me about it. Like, if you look at HARP, I'm absolutely terrified. I'm terrified that, oh yeah, sure, we stopped the one in Alaska, but we didn't stop the one in Australia. And keep in mind that somehow the ozone layer has replenished over Australia faster than they expected it to. I wonder how that happened. I don't know, supercharging the ionosphere with some, electricity enough to, lift the ionosphere into what would be the ozone. I don't know, might have an ozone-like effect to actually fix it. But if that's really what they were capable of doing, imagine what else they could do. I mean, think about it. Our world is, 74% water? And most of those antennas use microwaves? What happens to water in a microwave? It flash boils. Like, you can put water in a microwave for like 5 minutes. And all it takes is just a slight interruption, I mean. No, that's not bullshit. Actually, it's very chemically accurate. CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, would actually bond with the oxygen, which ozone is built of O3, which is an unstable bonding of oxygen. It's basically, it has to be highly charged to even bond at that level. The CFCs were highly unstable chemicals that would bond with the oxygen in the ozone and actually deplete it. Well, yeah, because when you're cycling energy, it requires that movement. Like, if you've ever been on the cusp of like having a pond or something freezing and skip a stone across it, if you do it at the right time, it has to be perfect. You can literally skip the stone and cause it to freeze along the path of your stone because you've hit it at the right timing. I think it was Rotasium that showed people the experiment with Fiji. And you have to do it just right, just perfect, to pull it out of the freezer and tap it so that it creates the freeze. Okay, yeah, see, flash freezing your water, there you go. You're not technically flash freezing it, you're causing it to solidify. You're unstabilizing the molecules just enough. Well, and that's going to be variable depending on conditions of your freezer, the purity of your water, you know, that you're using on how to do that. But see, that's the thing. I mean, that's the whole point of like the foglets. The foglets, you know, utility fog is so far out that, I mean, something like HARP, something like ChatGPT, or any other AI is a joke. You know, I mean, we're so far out. I mean, like, if we had some significant breakthroughs, we might be 50 years away from a prototype. Now, with like ChatGPT, you know, these things are dumb. Using large language models, they're dumb. They only do what you tell them to. And trust me, if anybody that's given instructions to children knows exactly how frustrating that is when it only does what you tell it to. Which is why you end up with so much AI slop, so much crap, because people don't put enough thought into what they're asking from this dumb machine. Which has turned so many hearts against it because like, oh, it was trained on my artwork. No, so's every other artist. Every other artist is trained on somebody else's artwork. I mean, literally AI is trained on a mashup of every artist out there. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not going away. Well, yeah, because any complex computer program, any one of them, is only as smart as the dumbest programmer. Think about that for a second. Think about how many people that you know are dumbasses that got passed through classes. And now they're working on some of the most complex bits ever. But, you know, it's just like people's argument about AI psychosis and how these people probably wouldn't have done what they did, whatever it was, if AI hadn't told them to. Or there's that too. I mean, well, those are the ones you want. To be honest, Infinite. It's the ones that, you know, were the brown-nosing the teacher that got the grade they shouldn't have got just because they sucked up to the teacher. Those are the ones you don't want in something. Honestly, a slacker programmer is the best one you want because he is going to find the best way to code something repeatedly and simply, rather than working on it assiduously day by day, building and piling trash code on top of trash code on top of trash code on top of trash code. That's why historically the best hackers were slackers. I was a straight A student too. And I did my homework in the middle, but you know, in between classes for the next class. Because school's a gimmick. It was easy to figure out how to do it. Yeah. But large language models are already hitting a wall. Like, I mean, the very fact that the wife got laid off tells you everything you need to know about how fast data centers are working. They're already slowing down working on them. Oh, I just do it in between lunch or in between classes. Lunch was sacred to me. It only took me 5 minutes to do homework, almost all of it. Just in between the class, whatever class was next, I do the homework. It was ridiculous. Ridiculously easy. But I also have, because school is all about remembering things. And I have a pretty decent, well, had a pretty decent memory. Oh, we had 5 minutes between classes. I would get into the class, sit down, pull out, look on the board on what was supposed to be turned in, pull out my notebook, pull out the book, look at the questions, boom, 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 boom. And I dropped out in my third year with a 3.98 because I was bored. Right? But, I mean, school is a joke, and I think that's why a lot of people get fooled by something like Foglets, because they didn't really understand how hard that would really be. Wait, what? You want more pets? Jeez, per motor. Yeah. Sorry, the cat's asking for pets. And Mama brought her over, so I gotta do something, Oh, baby. Oh. Yeah. My teachers could stuff it and they knew I felt that way because there was literally nothing they could do. I mean, they could bark at me all they want, but I wasn't breaking a rule one. Well, if they gave me detention, I'd go straight to the principal and I'd say exactly why. Like, I got detention for working on something. And if they didn't like it, okay, fine. I'd throw enough of a stink to get ISS. Just enough to get, peace and quiet and just do my work. Sit in a soundproof room. Man, do I miss those days sometimes. I would love to have a soundproof room again, where all I'm left with is my inner thoughts. Parents can only do so much. What are they going to do? Like, I hate to put it that way, but I mean, if you know you're in the right, there's nothing your parents can do to punish you that's actually effective. But I found uni to be such a stupid thing too. What's up, XO? Take your door, take your coping skills, that's fine. I would embarrass the hell out of my parents if that's what they tried to do and they knew it. Like, you want to take my door? All right, fine. You're going to see everything. Have fun with that. What are they going to do if I don't? Beat me senseless? Go ahead. Well, no, they just really tried to control when you use the bathroom. They were pretty militant about it. I don't think we had like limited numbers. Well, that's all I'm saying is that, like, what are they going to do if you don't push the peanut? Like, I'm sorry, Andy, you know, it's like we often forget that we have a choice. Because if pushing the peanut across the floor with my nose is the punishment, what more can they do to me? And yes, hell yeah for the vacay, and welcome in, EXO. And perfect timing, because it is time for me to take my break. I will be right back in 5. Have fun, and I'll be right back. So let's see. Limited passes in our planners, and they implied fancy year 2000 planner. No, I wasn't in school in 2000. Man, I miss having an old trapper keeper. Syllabus week before classes start. Read them all. There you go. See, gossip, that is why you are where you are. You plan, and you properly plan for your own failures. You were scared of your parents abandoning you if the... Someone who was worse than them. Well, I understand, Andy. I do. But there's only so much you can do. Oh, I went big. But here, I think everybody needs to hear this. Everybody. You are the sum of your celebrations as much as you are the sum of your tragedies. Without one, you wouldn't have the other, and without both, you wouldn't be who you are. Pure and simple. It is that simple. We can either lament and regret our tragedies and wish something had happened better or worse, but then we wouldn't be who we are today. Pure and simple. If you go back in time and you change one of your tragedies, you're no longer the person you are today. Well, Andy, I will tell you that my parents never threatened with leaving me or sending me away or anything like that because they knew I would call their bluff. Like, okay, send me away. I was basically, I had weaponized oppositional defiant disorder. I didn't like abuses of power. Yeah, it's not so much that I don't like authority. I don't mind listening to somebody that knows what they're doing. I have no problem following somebody. I have a problem following somebody that doesn't know what they're doing and is making it up as they go along, but is bluffing and saying that they have absolutely 100% control. And I get to call bullshit. But I don't know what else to tell you, Andy, other than at some point, you're going to just have to let it go. It'll eat you up like acid. Well, of course, it sounds like your parents had a friggin' authority disorder. They wanted to rule over people. They didn't actually know how, but that's what they wanted to do. They just wanted control. And that's fine. Your immune system is trash after COVID. Oh, so you ended up with long COVID, huh, XO? Where it just won't quite work up? It won't just quite come back? I'm sorry. See, again, this is why I'm built different. This is why I could look at my parents as a 7-year-old kid and go, yeah, I did it. Give me the spanking. But it's also why I could, I walked through sicknesses that would, you have a good night, Jade. Thank you for popping in. I have an immune system that stops tanks. I have literally gotten illnesses that were like a cold for me and put other people in the hospital. I have eaten food that has put people in the hospital. And I got an upset stomach. Well, Andy, if you're actually not reliving the trauma, why do you bring it up so often? I'm not trying to poke fingers or, call you out or anything like that. I'm just asking because you bring it up. I'm asking, you often bring it up. And it's often unrelated to what's going on. And you bring it to open forums. Because you feel like you're being asked? Okay, that's valid. I'm not trying to poke fun or anything like that. I'm just saying, it's like, no, that's not what I'm trying to say at all. But when you tell me that you're not actually reliving the trauma and that you're getting over it, that generally means you don't really worry about it too much. But you bring it up an awful lot for somebody that's getting over it. If you still need space to process and, allow yourself to feel it, not a problem. I get that. I'm just saying that, it comes up. And I think you need to look into yourself because I don't care. We're here to talk. That's literally what this place is for. I'm not trying to single you out or something like that, but you bring it up, so I talk about it, and then I ask questions. It's what I do. I don't bring up stuff like that very often because it's like picking at a scab. If you keep picking at it, it'll never heal. And then you're left with a scar that always reminds you. I know, I picked my way out through many scabs. Whereas if you let your brain heal naturally, it's fine. I also don't believe in a whole lot of the stupid psychobabble that a lot of psychologists and everything come up with, because I went to school for a while. Before I thought I was going to be an English professor, I wanted to be a psychologist because I like helping people. I like talking to people. And then I started learning more about psychology, and I thought, how broken are these people, and why are they telling me I'm broken? I mean, going to a psychologist is like going to a mechanic that can't fix their own damn car. Like, it's stupid. They tell you that, oh, you can. It's like, no, a little self-reflection, a little thinking about it. You can move mountains in your own head. Especially if you have some good friends that you can talk it over with. And yes, hugs for everyone. I'm not trying to be mean here. If it's coming across as mean, I apologize. That's not what I mean at all. But I just think that everybody needs to appreciate who they are and what they have. Appreciate that the road that got them here made them who they are. You may not want to have something happen to you again, but I would never take it away from happening to me at all. That's really the big thing for me, is that I like who I am, which makes it real easy to withstand, trash talk. Makes it real easy to handle negative comments. Like, you think I haven't heard them before? You think my parents didn't try to rule over me before? What have you got? People I cared about a whole lot more than some rando person has said worse to me than some rando person ever could. And I know that I didn't deserve those comments back then with somebody I cared about, even though it hurt. I knew I didn't deserve it. So I don't see a point in picking at, oh, my parents didn't treat me very well. I moved on. Well, because strangers can't betray you. Pure and simple. But we all have our own roads to go. That's the thing. That's what I was trying to tell Andy is that I'm not trying to tell her to not talk. I'm trying to say that you might think you're further along on that processing than you really are. I'm just trying to be realistic. We all need to learn to be who we are, not try to shape ourselves around our trauma, but in spite of our trauma. As stupid as that sounds. Hi, I'm Neon Buzz, your life coach. No, that's not who I ever want to be. But the fact is that we've all weathered our own storms. And I don't like giving people the opportunity to dig at me. Not because I can't handle it, but because it sidelines crap. It feeds your own, dark side, your own shadow for a day or two before you can kick it back into its little hole. That side of you that always asks you to doubt yourself, second guess yourself, brings up all these terrible memories. Well, why is your brain doing that? Why does your brain want to remember all these bad things? Hey, what's up, Ghost? Welcome in, sir. I thought Miss Sewer was tired. I'm not complaining. Pop in anytime you want. I'll give you the same talking to that I'm giving the rest of them here. It's kind of a reverse pep talk. No, I was just telling people basically that, to understand that they are the sum of both their celebrations in life and their tragedies. And to change one, you would lose the other. Yeah, you might take away a celebration, but you'd lose a tragedy and vice versa. And you would cease being who you are today. There is no reason to think about changing what happened to you. There is no reason to regret or change what happened in your past. There is only reason to learn from what happened in your past so it doesn't happen again. Or so you can make it happen again if it's a celebration. And That's the crux of it. Is that we need to learn that going back and forth on worrying about what's happened in the past is only going to keep bringing it back. It's only going to dig us in a deeper hole. It's like telling yourself every time you walk by your sink and all the dirty dishes in there, oh, I can do those later. I can do those later. Well, you realize that every time you tell yourself, I can do those later, you're strengthening your ability to say, I can do that later the next time. You're making it easier to not do it every time. So you might as well just do it. Get it out of the way so you can relax in comfort. Oh, you're learning more French. Parlez-vous français? I know very little. I probably need to do some more French. Not that I think it's a language that's going anywhere. I just think it's a cool language. And like way back in high school, I took some French and I tried to keep up on it for a while, but I know so little anymore. EXO in Paris. I actually would love to go see Paris someday. Maybe after they stop burning their place down, but you know, I'd like to go see Paris someday. I sailed by it at least twice. No? I sailed by it, well, by France, 4 times. No, only 3 times. That's right. I went the other way the second time around. But I don't know. Well, actually, I think now everybody that was here when I first did what I actually came here to talk about is no longer here. So it's not doubling up for some people. Would you like to hear about utility fog? Would you like to hear about the insidious thing that might or possibly could exist at some point in the future that could control your very world, the very air you breathe? I'll even go through the little story I wrote for it to give you an idea of how it works. Flew over France, if that counts? Yeah, it counts. Yeah, so I was reading this conspiracy theory. See, Infinite got here just as I was kind of wrapping up. And it didn't seem like, you know, I was getting too many questions about it, so I just kind of moved on. But I'll even give you the opening narration. They call it an office. That's generous. I push the door open and step into nothing. No desk, no chair, no walls worth mentioning. Just a volume of stale air hanging in the neon haze outside the windowless frame. The city hums beyond it, power lines, traffic grids, 1,000 conversations bleeding through the fog like cigarette smoke through a cracked window. The door seals behind me. Lights, I say. And in the air listens. A soft glow blooms overhead. No bulbs, no fixtures, just pure illumination, perfectly even, like the room decided to remember itself. The fog stirs, subtle as breath on cold glass. I work my fingers under my collar and exhale. Desk. Again, the air listens. 12 million tiny hands reach for each other. The air thickens and crystallizes. A surface grows out of nothing. Clean lines, matte black, scarred just enough to look honest. My desk knows better than to pretend it's new. Chair. It slides into place behind it, already angled just right. Knows how I sit, knows how long I stay. I don't thank it. Never thank the fog. Makes it feel like a person. I walk around the desk, footsteps muted as the floor firms under my weight, and a drop into the chair. It catches me gently, too gently for a man who's been dropped harder by better things. The city keeps buzzing. Somewhere, someone's getting rich. Someone else, or somewhere else, someone's getting buried. I rub my eyes. Computer. The air is still listening, always. The desk ripples. A screen rises from its surface, seamless, pale blue light cutting through the gloom. No keyboard, no mouse, just a quiet waiting like it wants to be needed. Kind of. I've played with it before. I kind of wanted to do it before, but it didn't seem to be going anywhere, so I kind of abandoned it. Yeah, I wrote a story for Raven. It's literally called For Raven. We'll get into it after I'm done. I'm just playing around with this. The desk ripples. Screen rises from its seamless surface. Pale blue, light cutting through the gloom. No keyboard, no mouse. Just a quiet waiting. It wants to be needed. Angel, the voice neutral. Whoops, sorry, I forgot. Angel, the voice neutral, polite enough to be insulting. Nickel, private investigations. Outstanding invoices. 17. Story of my life. The screen fills with faces. Missing persons, corporate ghosts, people who slipped through the cracks wide enough to swallow a city and never made a sound on the way down. I tap one file, then another. Dead end, stacked on dead end, like the city's favorite joke. The fog hums softly beneath me. I adjust the pressure, redistribute the weight, but it's good like that. Better than most partners I've ever had. Pull that footage again. Doc camera, 48th and Lark, 3 weeks ago. The screen flickers, plays, pauses, plays again. That same blur, same missing 5 seconds, same gap where answers should be. I lean back. The chair listens with me. Supportive, patient, too patient. Enhance, I say, knowing exactly how stupid that sounds. But the computer does it anyway. Always does. Nothing new. Another dead end. I stare at the screen until it stares back. Reflections layered over reflection. Me, the data, the glow of the city that never shuts its eyes. Clear. And the screen dissolves back into the desk. Like it was never there. I sit there a while. Long enough for the fog to notice. Long enough for it to ask. Without words, just gentle nudges. What do I need next? I don't answer it right away. My shoulders ache. My head's full of rain that never falls. Somewhere between the alleys and the data trails, I lost the thread. And I'm starting to think it never wanted to be found. Change it. The desk softens. Edges rounding, sinking, flowing. The chair loses its grip. It stretched out, unfolding. The room exhales as furniture forgets what it's supposed to be. A bed forms where the desk stood, low, simple, waiting. And I stand, jacket still on, shoes still scuffed with yesterday's mistakes. I lie down anyway, and the fog rises to meet me, cradling instead of supporting, firm enough to hold me, soft enough to let me pretend. My clothes dissolve into sheets and a blanket. The lights dim without being asked. Another dead end, I say to the ceiling. And the ceiling doesn't answer. Neither does the fog. But it holds. And for now, that's enough. So that's a little idea of what it would be like to live with Utility Fog, where basically if this stuff ever was able to exist, it would be everything to you. Clothing, computer, bed, furniture, room, light. Everything but the very food you eat and the water you drink. I kind of, like I said, I kind of did narration before. Why? Do I need to brush up? Am I bad? Am I good? I don't know. I honestly don't know if that was good pacing, if I did it right. It felt good. It felt good. But it doesn't mean I don't have room for improvement. But I mean, that's just a little story I wrote about somebody living with utility fog. Okay. I'll take that. But, I mean, as much as utility fog, sounds like magic, it's really just basic physics. Basically, in engineering speak, each foglet is about the size of a human cell, a few microns across, and eventually, or individually, they're basically useless. They're weak, they're fragile, easy to ignore. But each foglet is made up of 12 telescoping arms, and they extend outward in all directions, up, down, left, right, forward, backward, and every diagonal in between. And they lock on to their neighbor. They form a rigid connection, and electricity can flow through this connection, computing. The more around, the more powerful the computation, or the more powerful the hold. It's basically using static electricity to hold itself together. Now, they can be all sorts of things. But the reality is as much as I've seen conspiracy theorists talk about utility fog and how it is, because, NASA put out a patent for it years and years ago. We're nowhere near the level of science we would need to be to even have this stuff exist. I mean, it's literally why you probably have never seen any conspiracy theory video on it or any science video on it. But NASA being ready for it is crazy. See, that's the thing that kind of bugs me. But the idea of being able to mass produce a micron level computing robot that is light enough to hover in air but strong enough to grab onto its buddy, you would have to have 100% accuracy, because even a small error at that scale makes it useless, because the whole point is that it has to be uniform, and we're talking uniform to a level that we've never seen. So the idea that this could happen just in the manufacturing capability alone, we're probably 50 years. The energy requirement, probably another 60, 70 years. The ability to dissipate the heat that these things would create without frying the person inside, 100 to 120 years. That's my estimate. That's not any numbers. I can't cite any numbers for that. But that's my estimate. I mean, the heat alone, you could cook with the leftover heat of this. And that's supposed to be all around you, even in the air you breathe. I mean, it's a beautiful idea where the very clothes you wear can actively resist, hey, you're part of a tragedy. The very clothing will actually create a bubble around you and stop shrapnel. Stop a building from falling on you. It'll actively resist all of these forces. I mean, it's a great idea, but it's basically science fiction, but it's not as far out as people might think. That's the other thing. It's really not that far, but it's fun to think about. Because I kept hearing it in these conspiracy theory videos, because I love watching conspiracy theory videos. They're fun. I don't take them seriously, but they're fun to watch. And just looking at how many times they bring up foglets or utility fog, and this is what they're talking about. They're talking about nanoscale machines that have pervaded your very environment. The idea that this could be anywhere near possible is the same people that think AI is going to take their job. Sure, companies are laying off people and citing AI, but that's not why they're laying people off. AI is not taking people's jobs. Bad corporate decisions are taking jobs. In fact, it's been proven that AI is actually worse at the job than you are. Pick a job. The only thing AI seems to have any kind of facility towards is stupid stuff nobody would pay for anyway. You know, people that, you know, call down creators for using AI in videos. Or not in videos, but in like thumbnails. Well, the fact is that a creator that's using AI in a thumbnail is not one that's going to be able or willing to pay for a thumbnail from an actual artist. It's not taking a job from somebody. Hell, most of the people that use those can't afford a thumbnail artist, or else they probably would. You know, and sure, AI could probably take my job in art, of which I don't have a job in art and I'm not very good at. I'm learning. But again, nobody's gonna pay me for my art. Not yet. You know, so the average person that's losing their job, if they're in art, to AI, you probably weren't that good to begin with. I hate to be the one to tell you that, but if you're losing your job, maybe it's because, well, corporate's looking for an excuse, most likely. It's not even necessarily that you're that bad. Well, it is. I mean, it's like your average random YouTuber or whatever creator that needs a thumbnail. They're most often kids in high school or college just trying to make ends meet. How are they supposed to afford a thumbnail artist, even at $5 a thumbnail? Well, to break in, you have to what? Have a video every day? Or at least 5 days a week? Before you could actually slow it down? So you can catch on and catch in the algorithm? Well, even at 5 days a week, that's 5 days a week at $5 a thumbnail, that's $25 a week. $4 weeks on average in a month. That's $100 a month. How many of you can afford $100 a month for a maybe? For an investment that's not paying you back yet? Like, it's ridiculous to sit there and think about that. It's not that these people don't want to, it's that they can't afford it. You know, and that's why I hate how many people like sit there and just trigger twitch hate on AI. You know, take the Creepy Shift video games. How they initially used, right, that $100 could feed you. That's what I'm saying, is that like it, I'm not saying that the artists don't deserve the money. Please understand, I think $5 for a thumbnail is kind of cutting it, you know, kind of shy. I would feel like I'm taking advantage of the artist at paying only $5 a thumbnail, even though I can't afford to pay that. But if that's all the artist is asking, I damn sure would pay it. But the idea is that the average person can't afford that. Even if 4 videos a month, that's $20 that is for an investment that's not paying back. And with everything that, you know, because the main creator space is YouTube, sorry Twitch, with YouTube's doing, demonetizing channels or just not pushing channels that are monetized, you know, with everything that's going on, it's an investment that they can't even really afford to make because it's probably gonna lose them money for the first 4 or 5 years. And at even $100 a month for 5 years, that's $6,000, right? Because $1,200, 5 times 12 is, yeah, $6,000. Oh yeah. I mean, what was it? It happened to Vidith, it happened to Jay Nightmares, and those are just the ones I can pull off the top of my head. You know, sure, some of them get their channel back, and others, well, they damn sure deserved it. Like Internet Anarchist, if you know anything about him, I stopped watching him a while back because I realized there was some questionable things. Like, it just didn't feel right. Something wasn't right with what I was watching. And then come to find out he was plagiarizing. So there's a couple of good YouTubers that did good video on that. And now he's trying to say that, YouTube demonetized him for reused content and that it's unfair. And it's like, bro, we caught you in 4K plagiarizing. You pulled an Illuminati. Don't even talk about that crap. It's why I don't shy away from telling people, yeah, I use AI to help me here and there. I mean, my background for talk time is AI. Well, yeah, I mean, you go into painting and hey, if it sells, you look at it as paying for the hobby. It buys you your next canvas or your next drawing papers or whatever you do. You don't think about it as being a business. It's how I look at Twitch. I get paid from Twitch every couple of months, $50. It buys me some new video games. I take $10 of it and I invest in stocks. No, you're not going to, I'm not going to tell you what stocks to invest in because, over 2 years, I've only doubled my money. Well, yeah, EXO's good at art, but you can't go into art thinking you're going to make a bunch of money. Otherwise, you corrupt your own art. Well, exactly. If you sell your artwork, you give yourself an idea of what you want to get with the art. What's wrong with being responsible, Infinite? I don't know why I said it that way, why it came out weird. I apologize, Infinite. That was not meant to sound so weird. Yes, I was kind of mocking you, but I didn't want to make it sound like that. Why am I so responsible? Because I raised 2 kids on a shoestring budget. Because we've had to make decisions on what we could do with our money and to make sure we had rent. Make sure that the kids had everything they needed.
We didn't, but they did.
Well, of course, the kids always got first. That's just what parents should do. Sorry, I don't know if you heard the wife, she said that we, meaning that, we didn't always have what we needed, but the kids always did. It's like, of course, that's what we did. Right, coloring books. See, I always had my books. I always had a library card. Library card was free. You go down and get one. I always have my books. And I cannot tell you how many Saturdays or Sundays or whatnot in my early childhood that was spent just at the library. Coloring is very calming. Why do you think I like Thursday? Why do you think I extended drawing nights to Thursday and Friday? Because I like doing it. And yeah, sure, I started with having some base images, teaching myself lines and stuff like that, and now I'm doing it on my own. We used to have this beautiful, it had to be at least 100-year-old library building, right? The Timberland Regional, the one in Centralia, that was old.
It was either, I think it was from the 20s or 30s.
Was it? I would have swore it was older than that. Okay.
No.
So apparently it was from the 20s. Oh, no, that's right.
Yeah, because they had remodeled in the 40s with the bomb shelter.
Yeah. But anyway. Ooh, that's cool. Like making your own books. I know how to do it. I've never done it. But I'd love to get I would actually love to get real vellum, trim it so it's a nice size for a book, and get real sinew, gut sinew, and like literally make my own books in the old traditional style. Like literally sew the books together with sinew and needles. And then just go out and mill some, find some board, like thin wood that fits the size you need to actually make an old school board. You don't have to be good at crafts to enjoy crafts. That's the point is that you don't have to be good at what you do as long as you enjoy what you do and be the best you can be at it. Like, that's it. And that's your win. She gives you the ideas. Some people are just idea people. They don't have the ability to see it through or work on it, but they have the vision to do it, to how it could be done. There's nothing wrong with people like that. In fact, if it wasn't for people like that, we probably wouldn't have some of the inventions we do. Or just people that ask questions like, oh, why can't we do it that way? Yeah, everyone needs an idea person. Everyone needs somebody to, and we also need a person that encourages us. Not even necessarily an idea person, but a person that just says you can do it. Like that, the one guy from every Adam Sandler movie, you can do it. Everybody needs a person like that in their life. Unless they're standing on a ledge. Then they don't need that person. They need the one that says do a flip. Sorry. That's a joke. For me, that's been my wife. Always supported me in whatever dumbass thing I want to try and do. And oftentimes it works out. Other times, it don't. But she always not just encourages me, but also asks me questions about what I'm doing. Helps me refine it. Helps me move forward with it. For lack of a better term. Speaking of encouragement and art and all of this and stuff that people do, where is that? I don't think I put it there. Is this the right one? You guys want to hear me narrate something that I'm working on? This probably isn't the final project of it, but Grandpa passed away a year or so now, and she wanted to make a painting about it, so she asked me to do it. He used to call her the little sheep, so I made it for her. A hill with sheep on a sunny day. Ooh, nice. Okay. So I've been working on this story. I don't want to call it a book or whatever. I don't know what it's going to end up being. That is actually really cool, by the way, EXO. The air was cold and clear, a crispness to it. It was a fine September dusk over the football field. The sky split into gradients of violet, scarlet, and amber. The field lights were off, making a ticking sound. Oh, this isn't the right one. Give me a second. I am reading off the wrong one. I have updated it since then. That's an old one. The town was at home, smack in the middle of cornfields. Not a destination, but on the way to other places. It was one of the many sleepy little towns that only have a couple of freeway exits, and the major commercial areas are clustered around those. Outside of that, you have a historic downtown, the area that is constantly struggling, but somehow always seems to make it another year. And various businesses, the ones that support the booster clubs, the local organizations, the ones that really support a town. Those are the ones the town people use. That is to say, this town is just like many others, and yet there is a certain something here that gives people a reason to stop and breathe. The graffiti is of the high school variety, not gang tags, just kids wanting to be immortal for a year or so. And once you get away from the off-ramps, everything just slows down. The town looks straight out of an advertisement. Come live here, clean and clear and friendly. Somehow, it has avoided that certain level of distance many others have succumbed to. The slow erosion of the foundations of the community that infects many other towns. The police still walk the streets, preferring that to driving. They smile, nod, they be one with the community. The kids play at the parks, the sandlots, or just ride bikes across town. And parents feel safe letting their kids out to play and not constantly needing to be observed. The kind of childhood that only inhabits memory anymore. The local high school, home to the Ravens, the heart of the town. And the sports teams are often found helping local farmers with harvest, helping the downtown stay clean. The coach, who is also the local mayor, he takes great pride in his city, and so do his team. Sure, some kids may gripe about doing free community service, but this also means they can get out of drills on occasion, so they don't gripe too much. The school stadium, built with booster money, community help, and pride. No graffiti graces these walls, just a giant raven with deep purple eyes. And the school's colors are black, gray, and purple, so the stadium is painted likewise. The parking lot is quickly emptying. All except for one car can be seen driving away. The sun is setting over the field, one player left standing on the green gridiron. The air was cold and clear, Christmas to it. It was a fine September dusk over the football field. The sky had split into gradients of violet, scarlet, and amber. The field lights were off, making a ticking sound as they gave up their heat. But John, he had no need for them tonight. He had his rhythm and his steps. He slid his earbuds, worn in gray from use, and pressed play on the MP3 player. A heavy bass line pulsed into his ears, instantly taking him to his center. Retro wave music always flooded his senses, always pushed the world away. Weighty synth tones swelled, washing him in an internal neon light. Drifting saxophone and trumpet flailing at the night. Percussion, the heartbeat of the song. John closed his eyes for a fraction of a second, the neon-soaked tempo taking root in his chest. When the scouts saw John as the center of the team, to the team that he was... The scouts saw John as the center of the team, but to the team, he was the dependable quarterback. To John, standing here on the 40-yard line, he was grace, he was smooth, he was a dancer. John had agonized over the upcoming game. Last year's state champions analyzed the tapes. The offensive coach and him have been trying to come up with some play that would break through. Then one night, sitting at home, he and his parents were watching an old Gene Kelly movie, and Mr. Kelly had done a peculiar role during an arduous tap routine. This one inspired John. The play had formed in his mind, thinking of the backup dancers as the line and him as Mr. Kelly. John saw the music in the play. The music had flow. That was what they needed to break the champs. Flow. Not rigid drills, not a wall blocking, but fluid and flexible movements. All right, John whispered. On switchback, take one. 200 yards away, past the chain-link perimeter fence and obscured in the heavy shadow of an overgrown oak tree, a dark and unassuming a dark and unassuming sedan was parked at the curb. Sorry, it's still a work in progress. The engine cold and the interior more so. At the steering wheel, a man in a heavy canvas jacket adjusted a pair of tiny binoculars, focusing through the passenger side window. The view framed the kid on the field. He looked absurd. He was bobbing his head, executing odd, fluid cross steps, like he was a dancer on the floor, completely disconnected from the reality of a football field. And the man lowered the binoculars and picked up a cheap, prepaid flip phone from the cup holder. He flipped it open, the green glowing illumination glaring off the jaw of a 5 o'clock shadow. He didn't know the kid's name, hadn't been given a name. The brief from the contractor had been 3 lines: high school lot, gray sedan, monitor and log the marks routine. He checked his watch, 6:15. Target is still running drills. He typed into a terse, clumsy text message. Kid's got no situational awareness, head completely in the clouds. He hit send. The phone chirped. He tossed it back into the cup holder, pulled his collar up against the creeping autumn chill, and raised the binoculars again. It was a boring but easy surveillance gig. Private job handed down from the boss. He didn't know why the boss wanted eyes on the suburban teenager, and he didn't care. Money cleared every Friday. That was the only thing that mattered. Sorry, that was the only math that mattered. On the field, John called the snap in his head. Instead of a standard drop back, he executed a fluid cross-stepping glide to his left, mimicking a dancer's smooth steps. His body weight leaned heavily one way, his eyes locking into an imaginary wide receiver on the left flank. He knew exactly what the defense would see: a quarterback committing entirely to a left side bullet pass. Then, right as the beat dropped in his ears, John pivoted. It wasn't an athletic scramble. It was a graceful spinning turn that utilized his core and balance, a move born entirely from the private choreography he practiced in his bedroom. He swept behind the imaginary wall of defenders, his body gliding effortlessly across the turf to the right side. The kinetic energy traveled up from his feet, through his hips, and directly into his right arm. He waited a beat for the phantom defense to adjust to the feint. John snapped his gaze back to the original target downfield, a canvas bullseye hanging from the distant goalposts, and then he let the ball fly. It sliced through the twilight air with a tight, flawless spiral, riding the crest of the music. Rasp. Right in the dead center of the red bullseye. John let out a breathless laugh, and he pumped his fist. The neon switchback felt like it would work. It was elegant, unpredictable, and completely his. He didn't have the confidence to show his teammates why the footwork worked, but the results didn't lie. And he spent another 10 minutes gathering the footballs, completely lost in his own little world before tossing the mesh bag over his shoulder and heading for the parking lot. And from the shadow of the oak tree, the man in the canvas jacket watched the gray sedan pull out of the school parking lot. And he waited, 1, 2, 3, and twisted the key in the ignition. He let the engine purr to life. He didn't turn on his headlights until the kid's car crossed the intersection a block ahead. From there, he maintained a disciplined, unhurried distance. 3 cars back, 4 cars back. The kid drove like an amateur, never checking his mirrors, fingers tapping rhythmically against the steering wheel to some invisible beat. It was almost too easy. They moved out of the commercial district into the quiet, winding blacktop of the residential suburbs. The streetlights grew sparser here, separated by deep stretches of manicured lawns and dark driveways. Up ahead, the kids' brake lights flared. The gray sedan signaled and made a smooth right turn onto a quiet, well-lit street that terminated in a cul-de-sac. The watcher didn't follow him down the turn. Instead, the man behind the wheel kept his foot steady on the gas, drove straight past the entrance to the neighborhood without breaking his stride. He glanced down the street as it rolled past, noting the exact colonial house where the kid's car was pulling into the driveway. He pulled over a quarter-mile down the road, killed the headlights, and opened the flip phone again. Mark is down for the night. Home address confirmed. Standing by for next deployment. And that's where we end Act 1, Scene 1. I call it the Neon Switchback. If you knew the whole story, you probably... there's a lot to it. Well, of course it would be the title. There's a lot more. I mean, I've been refining it. Like, obviously, I looked up an older one, not the current one, which was a mistake. But I really don't know. I won't know what the whole thing's going to be yet. I have an outline of basically Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. I think it's going to be a good story. Well, it's going to be a while. I'm only 7 scenes in. Still in Act 1. Yeah, 7 scenes in, but I think I've only... But Act 1 should be over in 1 or 2 more scenes. 10 at the most. Well, see, here's the problem. If you have too much situational awareness, you think too much like a criminal and you're always stressed. You're always worried. Trust me, I know. I've worked enough security. But if you adopt habits and listen to your... Well, like I talked about the one night about listening to your internal security guard. Not your anxiety. Like, give that internal security guard a chance to work and the anxiety doesn't ramp up. You listen to it. Why am I feeling anxious? What's going on? Rather than just trying to get out of the situation, you need to look at the triggers for what the situation is giving you. So situational awareness is one thing, but we need to be more like we need to understand and learn how to trust our inner voice. You guys want me to go another hour, or you guys want me to put it up? Because I can go another hour. It just means I'd have to run the ad. You gonna be dipping? Okay. Well, then I can go, and I will let you guys take care of what you need to. I will be here tomorrow night. You all have a wonderful evening, and thanks for joining me tonight. I do really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful night until I see you again. Ta-ta.